So tonight we have our special annual photo sharing program. And this is a program dear to my heart because I fancy myself a bit of a photographer. One thing I'd like you to think about in tonight's presentations is usually we think about the documentation of where somebody's gone or the birds they've seen. I'd like you to also think about tonight's presentation in terms of art because these are really special presenters we have tonight, and they strive for artistic perfection in their photos, not just documenting the birds, not just to show you what birds they've seen, but to create art. And I think that's one of the things special about this photo sharing is we get to see not just birds and places, but real art. So to start, John was scheduled to make a presentation about his ventures down to Mexico, but he's decided that really deserves more time. So he's going to give us a little teaser, and then they'll get it on the schedule for this coming year. So John,
Thanks, Tim. Can you hear me? Okay. Yes, it's a teaser. Uh, my wife and I were honored as a wedding present to be kind of bumped to the front of the line for an annual event, which had been postponed the previous years because of COVID, to the Laguna San Ignacio, where the gray whales migrate back to every year. It's after about a 7,000-mile trip from uh, Baja, Mexico, up to the Sea of Chukchi and past the Bering Straits. And then, so that's outside of, well, humpbacks have awfully long trips too. And I think a lot of studies being going on is happening right now, a lot through Oregon State University Marine Science Center about lots of species of whales and that travel long distances. But this is about this particular thing. Those are the dates that we went on. It's a little old, but it's still really a neat thing. And my wife and I are looking forward to giving you a full presentation coming up. I think, well, we're going to tentatively maybe schedule it for next December if that works out, but we can do it just about any time. So this is um, Baja California del Sur, Laredo to Laguna San Ignacio. And I'll show you here if I can figure out. Hey, there we go. So we flew in from Los Angeles into Laredo, which is located here. And then the first couple of days, we sniffed around the islands out here in the Sea of Cortez, looking for blue whales, but we didn't see any. But we saw a lot of interesting things, birds and other things that you'll see on the full program. And we go up here to Santa Rosario, up in this area, and then crossed over through the mountains here. These are about 4,000 to 5,000 foot volcanoes along here, and down into the flatlands here to the San Ignacio Lagoon. And there's over 100, sometimes 300 whales that come in here to have their calves. Well, probably half of them have their calves in this area every February through March, April is their calving time. That's what it looked like the first morning we got up, looking east over the Bay of San Laredo Bay. And we went, let's see, where are my notes here? Where are my notes? Oh, no, no. Okay, well, It's not the Xanthus, it's Coscus. Thank you. Well, this was just behind the hotel that we were staying at. Interestingly enough, in a courtyard that was owned by a woman, an expatriate from Santa Barbara, that had been living there 50 years, was featured in some National Geographic articles about all the contributions she's made to that community, educating a lot of the ranch kids that were there, and she had birds all over her yard. And so that was one of our first stops that we made. We'll be out again. No, it's a, where are my notes? Put it. Oh, darn. I was just working on my. Ah, here. Yeah, hooded oriole. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm such a flux here. Anyway, a lot of neat birds there. Very interesting story that we'll tell next time there. This, of course, is a Xanthus hummingbird, and it's indigenous there to Baja. Once in a great, rare time, we've seen them up in Salem. Million flycatcher. They're indigenous to. And then, of course, what we went there over in the Laguna San Ignacio were the gray whales. Here's one spy hopping. Thought I had his eyeball picked out, but I guess I missed it there. But you can see the two spouts on top of his head. But there were whales everywhere. I'd say several hundred whales there. They come back each year and they kind of greet each other. And you can tell these are relatively old timers from all the barnacles on them there. Of course, some of them will be courting. Some of them are just playing around and saying, "Oh, good to see you again." So a lot of those. This is a pale variety of a little blue heron here, identified by. Oh, okay. Little blue heron on the tidal waters there of San Ignacio Lagoon. White ibis. White ibis. Some fishing around there. Whoop. Okay. This is one of three major varieties of yellow warbler. It's the mangrove warbler, indigenous only to mangrove areas. Identified by the obvious red head. Reddish egret, also in the mangroves. And these are just a few of many of the fascinating birds that we saw in that area. So that's the end of the teaser for tonight. It was a great trip, and we'll get a much more organized one, tell a little bit about the history, why that's such an important part of the world. It's a UNESCO conservation area, one of the largest marine UNESCO conservation areas in the world. And how it came about through a fisherman in there in about 1970 or thereabouts. And we'll tell you that story and how it came to be. That's a very interesting story. Anyway, I'll give you the next presenters. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So I think you all know Joan Baker. She did a presentation a couple years ago on her trip down to Costa Rica. So I learned that she had been to New Zealand. Her and her husband went to New Zealand. And so she's going to tell us a little bit about that.
you. Oh, thank you. I don't know if I can hold two things with different hands. So Dave and I had been looking forward to this, to going to New Zealand for several years. We also had a couple of trips cancelled due to COVID. So it was really nice to finally be there, and it was worth the wait. It's a beautiful country, very friendly people, and lots of unusual birds that you can't see anywhere else. So my photos here are, until we get to the very end where we hit the albatrosses, all these birds are endemic to New Zealand, meaning you cannot see them anywhere else in the wild. And some of them have really unusual features. This one is a tui, which we saw almost every day. It's quite a common bird. And it has these little these are feathers under its chin, little white feathery tufts. And we often saw it feeding on this native flax. It liked the nectar from the flax. You can see on its bill there, it has the nectar, like a hummingbird. So here's a map of New Zealand. It has the main islands are the north, the south, and then at the bottom, Stewart Island. And we worked our way down the whole thing, starting in Auckland at the top and all the way down to Stewart Island, finishing off in Dunedin. Our tour was organized by Rock Jumper Birding Tours. And our guide was Eric Forsyth, who lives there in New Zealand, and he knew exactly where to go to find the birds. We did find most of them. I don't think we missed any important ones. That's what he said anyway. So just a few quick facts about New Zealand. The indigenous people there are the Maori, and their name for New Zealand is Aotearoa, which means land of the long white cloud, which I think is rather nice. In land area, it's just a little bit bigger than Oregon, and it has a population a little bit bigger than Oregon, 5.2 million against 4.4. But there are a lot of sheep, 23.6 million sheep. And although it's kind of a joke to say there are more sheep than people, it has actually shaped the landscape, because these sheep, and also a lot of cattle, need pasture. They need grazing land. So there's a lot of grassland there for the sheep and the cattle as you're driving around. And we'll just mention that these sheep are on they're on Hobbiton land. If anybody's a fan of Lord of the Rings, this sheep farm is where parts of Lord of the Ring were filmed. This was one of my favorite everyday bird as well. The fantail, the New Zealand fantail. It was very hard to photograph because it just flitted constantly and flicked its tail out, and you could not catch it. So I managed to get its tail, but not its head in this photo. I don't know if we would call that artistic, Tim. So the statistics are a bit weird, but basically we saw 46 endemic species out of the 129 species that we saw, which is quite a high ratio. If you're looking for high numbers of birds, you would not go to New Zealand, I guess. This is #1 bird on anybody's list for New Zealand, the kiwi. This we found at the Auckland Zoo. Dave and I had a week or so before the birding tour started, so we wanted to get a kiwi or two in the bag before we started the tour. And they are about the size of a small hen. They're nocturnal, so this was the night house at the zoo. And they are flightless, they cannot fly. There are a lot of interesting features about them. I would encourage you to look them up. There's a New Zealand Birds Online is a good website to look them up, find out all kinds of things. They have the largest egg of any bird relative to their size. The egg takes up about 20% of its body mass. It would be like us giving birth to a 3-year-old, basically. Yeah. So I'm afraid that was my best photo of the kiwi. You can see its long snout, the nostrils are at the tip of the snout, tip of the bill, so it can probe around for food. Our guide, Eric, allowed me to show you this photograph of, this is a different species, the southern brown kiwi on Stewart Island. He was able to get this beautiful photo. I don't know why I couldn't get it. It was pitch dark. They were using a red flashlight on it, and I just couldn't get it. So it's a beautiful bird, but obviously endangered because it can't fly. So humans have introduced predators that were not there before, stoats, which are a kind of weasel, rats, cats, dogs, and possums, and they all go after these kiwis, which don't have a defense mechanism except to freeze, because they used to have aerial predators, and that was their defense against that. If a stoat is coming at you, that's not going to help. They do have very strong legs and feet, though. So any flightless bird is going to be endangered and possibly kept in on an island, predator-free island, or a sanctuary. Like this is another one, the weka. It's a beautiful bird, and it had absolutely no fear of us, which is also not a good thing if you're endangered. It was just feeding on the beach where we landed with its little chick there, and it didn't bother about us at all. The weka. And this is another flightless bird. It's like a supersized purple gallinule. If ever you've seen a purple gallinule, this is just a massive bird with a huge bill and huge legs. And it was rediscovered after it was thought to be extinct for 50 years, which was nice. So now they are kept on these sanctuary islands. And here are now a few waterfowl. This is not a very good photograph, I realize, but it's the blue duck, which there are only a few thousand or so left. It's like fast-moving mountain streams. And the females are particularly endangered because when they're sitting on their nest, incubating the eggs, those land-based mammals can just come and pick them off, basically. But it's a beautiful bird in real life. Not such a good photo. And then this was something new for me, a duck, a teal, that comes out at night, does not come out during the day. I had never heard of a nocturnal duck. Anybody heard of a nocturnal duck? No. So it was beautiful, a chestnut brown color. I had to lighten the photograph quite a bit, as you can see, because we were going out hunting for the kiwi that night. A beautiful duck. This is another pretty duck. This is the paradise shell duck. This is the female with one of her chicks. We saw these almost every day. And they seem to be thriving on this pasture land because we saw them as we were driving along. They were in the field or they were up on the fence posts and all those pastures. So they seem to do well with that. This is the female. The male has an all dark body. This was on my wish list. This is a very unusual shorebird, the only bird in the world whose bill goes sideways. It curves sideways. And I know, it's amazing. And always to the right, apparently. And it can probe under small pebbles with that. But I was so glad we saw that and I was able to get a photo. Very interesting. This shorebird, it's just a pretty shorebird. It has nesting habits similar to the snowy plovers here. It nests just in a depression on the sand above the tide line. So we found this one with its little chick. That was so cute. And so now in the South Island, there's a string of Alps going all down the western side. We were lucky this day to see the top of it. It often is covered in cloud. That is the highest peak in New Zealand at 12,316 feet. And that drains into this Mackenzie Basin down below, which is where we were looking one day for one bird, the black stilt, which you can just about see right in the center of that photo there. Those were the first two black stilt we saw that day. We didn't see them until midway through the afternoon. We just, we were determined to find that bird because it is the world's rarest wading bird. There are less than 200 of them left. And there are huge conservation efforts, but again, ground nesters, mammal predators. Their chances are not good. You can see the one on the left, which is an adult, the all black one, has bands. So they harvest the eggs, hatch them, let the birds grow a little bit, and then replace them where their nest was to try and give them a good start. So we're up in the alpine area looking for this South Island wren. It's a bit like a rock wren. And we were prepared for a long trek up this trail, which our guide had told us we might have to do. But this pair popped up right away at the beginning of the trail and just put on a great show for us. They were so sweet. The male on the left has a nice green back, and then the female, obviously, a bit more muted. And he would bob up and down as he was singing, a bit like a dipper or even some wrens. So still up in the alpine area, this is the world's only alpine parrot, the kea, quite a big bird, very inquisitive, very intelligent, and it gets into trouble because it goes looking for handouts from humans who give them the handouts despite warning signs. We witnessed that ourselves, people just feeding them when the sign is right here, do not feed the kea. If you can look on YouTube and find some funny videos of them playing in the snow. Cute birds. Oh, this is such a cute little bird, a fern bird. And it's critically endangered because of habitat loss, I think. And again, this was on one of the predator-free islands. It creeps about in the bushes. So that's the fern bird. I know I don't say it properly. The fern bird, and this bird is on a fern, but it's not a fern bird. This is a North Island saddleback. There were some beautiful ferns there, tree ferns in the forests. And this one actually is at the zoo. It's a silver fern, which is a symbol that New Zealanders use on all kinds of things, T-shirts, water bottles. The New Zealand rugby team, which is world famous. Anybody into rugby? Nope. It's the top sport in New Zealand. Their black shirt has a white fern leaf on it. And it's a pretty bird too, with those red wattles. Oh, and now two little forest birds, the tomtit on the left, a little black and white bird, and the South Island robin here on the right. And how am I doing for time? I just wanted to mention which cameras I use on this slide, because you can see the difference. I still use my Canon PowerShot SX70 super zoom, small camera, weighs a pound. And I carry that with me sometimes. If I'm just doing tourist stuff, which we were when we saw the tomtit. So that's that camera. And then 2 years ago, I upgraded to the Canon R7 mirrorless camera, with a 100 to 400 lens, which is a bit more tricky for me. And it weighs all of 3 pounds, so I do, which is very light for a camera, but I don't always like to carry it. And that's the one I used for the robin. And I think you can see the difference in definition. You can really see the feathers of this little guy, whereas that is just a kind of a blur. So I really need to take this camera with me more, I guess. And is anybody a fan of the spelling bee word competition, word problem in the mornings in the New York Times? Yes, you can use tomtit. I was so excited to see it for that reason. You only see that in New Zealand. I don't know why they have that word in their word puzzle. All right, now we go to some ocean birds. This was our first pelagic trip, meaning we went offshore in a boat. Took our medicine and it didn't work. But anyway, the main target of this trip was this New Zealand storm petrel. It was thought to be extinct for over 150 years until two birders got a photo of it in 2003. Nobody knew what it was. It took a while to identify it. And it wasn't until 10 years later that they found the nesting site, which is on a little rat-free island in the Hauraki Gulf, which is just north of Auckland. And so we had to find that bird, and I had to photograph it, even though I only had my little camera with me. I think you can tell that day. A little bird, but very pretty. And it kind of danced across the water there. And I definitely wanted to see a penguin on this trip. We saw two species. This was one of them. The little penguin, or sometimes called blue penguin, because it does have that bluish hue to it. And it is the world's smallest penguin species at only 15 to 17 inches long. A cute little thing. And it would come in to Stewart Island, to the rocks in the evening where it had its nest. These king shags, they are very rare, but if you know where to find them, you just sail by and say, there they are. They spend their time in between the North and South Island in the Cook Strait, and then they nest on rocks in the Queen Charlotte Sound, where we took a nice cruise that wasn't at all rough. It was very nice. Okay. This was, yes, the one pelagic trip that I really wanted to do, because the albatrosses are flying here. You are with the albatrosses. It was just an amazing experience, apart from that swell like that. But you're not far off land, so that's a good thing. It's only about 15 minutes from land to the place where you stop and feed the birds from the back of your boat. This was one of the first albatrosses that came up to the boat. I love it. I just love the face. It's like angry bird face. It's a Salvin's albatross. Sort of medium size, the wingspan 8.5 feet. But then when this bird came over, that's what I wanted to see. That just still gives me a thrill to see this. It's huge. The wingspan is 9 to 11 feet. California condor is about 9 feet average wingspan, if ever you've seen that. It's a huge, and it just glides along. Beautiful bird. And then it reminded me of a swan, or a swan perched there on the water. They were so close you did not need a zoom at all. You could have touched them, because they were after our food that we'd left, dropped over the side for them. Then these guys, there were a lot of these guys fighting over the food. The northern giant petrel. They were just squabbling amongst each other. I put the photo of the gull up there so you can see the size comparison. They are pretty big, but not as big as the albatross. And then this was the largest albatross we saw, the northern royal albatross. It's hard to get it all in the frame because it's just so big when it's flying over. Oh, and here this shows you the scale of the wing span. I'm 5 foot and a bit, and that two of me there. So on our last afternoon, we went back over to the mainland from Stewart Island, and there's a breeding colony of these northern royal albatross on the mainland. It's just a small colony of about 30 nests or so, but we could stand up on the top of the cliff and look down on the birds, which was a different perspective altogether. And if anybody watches Cornell webcams, they have a live camera feed from that breeding site. It takes 11 months for a chick to hatch and fledge. So you can watch it pretty much all year long if you want. I have some friends who watch it all the time. That was my last slide. So these are my 2 guidebooks that I used, field guides. If anybody's thinking of going to New Zealand, get in touch and I will let you borrow them because we are probably not going again. It's a long way. We have other places to go. And I'll leave this up afterwards if you want to look at any of these websites. And then one more little chick there. That's it.
So when Joan gave me her file, she apologized about the quality of the photos. We should be so lucky, right? I should be so lucky to be able to take photos like that. So our next speaker was a professional photographer when he was working. He's not since looked to find artistry in his photos. He's a fisherman friend. When I learned he was going down to that he had some photos from South Florida, I asked him if he would participate in tonight's program. George Ostertag. And he talked. What is the name of your? You had a title for your talk.
Just easy birding.
Easy birding.
Just button forward, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, George.
All right. So I just want to make a couple points. A lot of people run to the Everglades. You'll recognize almost all the birds. The difference here is it was really easy. There's 5 places we'll go through real quick. They're all within 15 miles of each other. They all have either boardwalks or paved trails. Most are all boardwalks, kind of mile max, or some little loops you can do to make it a little longer on some of them. But frankly, you don't go the whole way. You can see they're developed. It's not all that complicated. The pictures, I've got a million to choose from. Idea was at each place between 5 and 10 hours. And I was with a person who was in a mobility scooter, who enjoys birds, but really not into photography. So it was kind of a run and gun thing. To give you an idea how close you can get to the birds. So I want to say that sometimes you're from Florida, you can go to the Everglades. If you want something easier, there's other options. And this is a good example. That's the visitor center. The boardwalk loops around for a mile. Is there a correct button? Am I going the wrong way? Oh yeah, all right, all right. You shouldn't press this one, it turns it black.
Press the black button.
All right, that's operator error on my part, thanks. Okay, the only reason I put this picture in, it's yellow-billed cuckoo, is that I want to show you none of these pictures have any significant cropping. It's all full frame with a 300 or 400 millimeter. And the reason I did that was to show you that you can get really close to the birds here. And it's really straightforward and easy. So there's no cropping at all. Obviously, you normally crop this one. I also didn't, since I was with my sister, it was kind of like big white birds, as my wife would say. Easy ones for her to see. Here's a classic example. It's a blue-winged teal, obviously, but it's so relaxed and you're right next to the thing and it doesn't care. They see a lot of people. You're not going to be by yourself, but it's not really crowded either. Here's another one, full frame picture, okay? No cropping. And it's the kind of thing you can forget taking the photos. It's a great place to go to see detail you normally wouldn't otherwise see. I mean, we all see these things every time we go out, but when you get in close, you can see a lot more detail. Here's the chick, same thing. We watched it feed, it was feeding that chick back and forth. You know, you get to sit there and watch things you normally don't get to see. There it is with the fish. There it is feeding the chick. And you got to see it over and over again. You know what I mean? So you forget taking the photos and just start watching eventually. And so the advantage of some of these places, this is Green Cay, obviously. So they're kind of between West Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale, a little on the inland side. Sorry. Excuse me? Pied-billed grebe. Yep, that's it. So, you know, you can see things that you normally don't see because you can get so close and you can sit there. Now, from a photography standpoint, though, that is a problem also. Because you're on a boardwalk, you're kind of shooting down, so you can't get the really good pictures shooting across for those of us who are kind of picky and spoiled. Okay, again, you get to see things really close. That's a black-bellied whistling duck. And you get to see them, they're wild. It's not like it's not a zoo. They fly in and out when they want. Lots of there's lots of the shorebirds of all sorts, purple gallinule, obviously, and you see a lot of them, but you get to see the feathers in a way that you normally don't. You know, you can see them really close, and the legs and all the detail. That's my sister. She's actually sitting in a mobility scooter, or stood up just is right behind her. So it gives you an idea how easy these boardwalks are to walk and what you're doing. This is another one. This one happens to be, I'm not going to try to pronounce it. But the point is, some of them were, all these 5 places, a couple were donated with the idea that they are for the birds, and they made them wetlands specifically to attract birds. Other ones are parts of their wastewater treatment. Other ones, National Wildlife Refuge. But anyway, you can see it's a wonderful, nice, simple place, straightforward, totally relaxing. In this particular place, the wood storks, they nest about 10 feet from the boardwalk. So, you know, normally you go to places, you got your spotting scope out, you got your binoculars out. Yeah, no. You know, this was you have to back up to be able to focus on it. And you can watch them do what they do at really close range. It's really straightforward. You know, the hard part was, do we keep going or just sit here and watch the whole time? And to give you an idea how close you can get, that's the railing of the boardwalk. So, you know, you can walk up and take close-up detail and look at detail that you normally can't. And hingas, same thing. By the way, I kind of chose the common birds. They have, you know, painted buntings and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, I was trying to make a point that sometimes seeing common birds in a closer, more intimate way where you can kind of watch their behaviors in a little more detail, it's a kind of a nice thing to do. And obviously, it's much easier to get pictures if they're sitting 20 feet from you. I used to see these photos from Florida, and I thought, these guys must have the best blinds. They must be in there for hours. Then I do this for 3 hours. I was like, holy crap. I've never, you know, it was like pretty easy, frankly, from a photo standpoint. You know, stuff like this. You see it from a distance, but it's a little different when you're close in. Oh, see snowies. So you see them everywhere. They're nesting there, you know, when they're feeding, it's one after another. I probably have, you know, took 50 shots of different birds doing the exact same thing. In a few days, I caught more birds eating fish, snakes, frogs than I did my entire life in Oregon. Tricolored heron, obviously, for those who know. This one again, sitting on the railing of the boardwalk or standing on it. So it gives you an opportunity to look at things in a way you normally can't. Peaceful Water Sanctuary, another one, it's got a half-mile loop. Again, beautiful boardwalk. It also has some flat dirt trails. They're wide, they're kind of like levees to go between. Again, you got to see a lot of detail. Purple gallinules. It's a purple gallinule. I don't know how you pronounce it. These guys probably know better. Did I get that right? But and so there's several different varieties of them there. And people who are from there see them all the time. People like me are really excited. This iridescent ibis. And you can see you get nice backgrounds. It's not like you, even though you're kind of in the city, from a photography standpoint, the backgrounds are really nice. Roseate spoonbill. And that blue thing is the sky. Apparently their sky is different. Ours is white here. The reason I put this one in, they do have sandhill cranes. They do nest there and breed there. I was talking to someone, they said, oh, yeah, if you come, I was there only in November. They said, if you come in February, yeah, you can get to within about 30 feet of them with the chick, 20 or 30 feet, doesn't bother them in the least. So again, I was thinking all these people were spending all this time in blinds. It's like, no, they just walk up to them and take a picture. Again, so you got some nice, you know, simple natural backgrounds. Again, a little blue there. And so it's not that a lot of the birds are always different than what you've seen, but you get to see them in a really nice setting at close range. And you get to see stuff like this. Like I said, I didn't spend a lot of time here. These aren't lifelong shots. It was a quick little trip with my sister because she deserved one. You know, obviously with a frog. That's a little blue heron when they're young. They're whitish. I had 3 or 4 snake pictures where different birds had eaten snakes. I mean, I don't think I've seen that anywhere for taking photos anyway. And, you know, literally it's 10 feet from the boardwalk. You know, it was hunting there and, you know, it didn't care in the least. Another one, Wellington. This one has a lot more paved trail, so it does obviously have boardwalks also. Tricolor, again, simple backgrounds. Those snails are in trouble because there's invasive. That's a limpet. Talk about rare birds. When I was here, I couldn't put it in, but they said everyone was looking for the rare birds and they were going crazy. And it's like, oh, they were looking at them. I'm thinking, I'm watching this limpet. I don't care because their rare birds there's 6 widgeons here. Has anybody seen the widgeons? Where are the widgeons? And I know if you're into listing trips and where you are, that would be a good thing. But since I'm not, I'm looking at that limpkin eating its apple snail, and I don't care about the widgeon. And I threw this one in. It's all within 15 miles. It's obviously a National Wildlife Refuge, so it's a little different than the others. The reason I put it in, I couldn't even focus on this guy. It was too close. But when I was there were a massive amount of birds at the visitor center in the pond. Literally, you sat with your back on the visitor center. And we watched it for a long time. They were eating fish like you can't believe. This is artistic, by the way. And what it was, they said, oh, this hasn't happened since like 4 years, when the pond's the right height with the right amount of fish and the right everything, and all the birds came in. And there was literally hundreds of herons, wood storks, ibis. Within 3 days we came back, there was one heron. My point is, when you hit something, you should stay and enjoy it. Because there was tons of these, snowies all over the place, and they were fighting over space. Anyway, so if you like photography and you want to see they do have rare birds too, but if you want to see some birds in a different way that's easy, you can stay in the United States. Obviously, that's a limpkin. I mean, that's a beautiful picture. I mean, and I got to tell you, I'm with my sister. It had to be easy. And that's the last shot, just to kind of say that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, George. What an interesting perspective on photography. To going places where you can take full frame pictures. I'm usually just the opposite. I'm cropping the crap out of everything. So that's fascinating. And Mike Unger and I are going to southern Florida in April. So thanks for those tips. So next, Dick and Beth Aften, you know them. They presented to us before Birders Night. They went on a road trip this summer, which they're apt to do, and looking in part for interesting and rare birds. And so Dick is going to share some of those birds with us now.
This is live. Okay. Greg stole a heck of a lot of my thunder here. Now you're going to get to see what an amateur photographer can do. My pictures, a lot of them are heavily cropped, and in some cases, some more rare birds. But we went to some of the same places that Greg did, and as he said, it's phenomenal. I hope all of you are enjoying our gray, gloomy, dank, dark days, right? Well, my wife and I, Beth, most of the better pictures are hers. Beth is also my driver. We covered 18 states last year, mostly in the motorhome. For Florida, though, we flew. And just as Greg showed us, the first stop we went to were the Wakatohatchee wetlands. And that boardwalk is phenomenal. You haven't gone more than 200 yards and you walk into the trees where these wood storks are nesting. And coming from Oregon, this is pretty special. You see these guys up close and personal there at that wetlands. I think our bird here, and Greg showed it, we'll better check it out. I think it's called a purple swamp hen. I think the gallinules have the yellow legs. The swamp hens have the pinkish legs. These guys first showed up in 1996. Now they're everywhere. They tried an eradication program. They quit after 3,200 birds were eliminated and the population grew. Glossy ibis here. Again, you can just be on the boardwalk and you can see all these spectacular birds. Head to Florida if you can. Now, okay. But be careful. There are gators all over the place. So you want to be sure that you keep one eye on the ground. We had been to Florida a couple years before, and this trip we really wanted to get some good shots of the roseate spoonbill. My book that I used uh, to research places was this book, uh, Florida Birding. And it tells you succinctly where to go to get good up and close with the birds. Um, it helped me, it helped us a lot. Uh, Stick Marsh, where, and Orlando wetlands for the spoonbills over on the left. But yeah, beautiful birds and so fun to photograph. And like Greg was saying, in Florida, unlike Oregon, you can get up close personal. Here, we saw several sandhill cranes just walking around in neighborhoods. Here, Beth, she has to give right away to a little blue heron. It's, uh, you don't see this every day. Um, Here, painted buntings down there are yard birds. This was taken at the Audubon Corkscrew Sanctuary over on the Gulf Coast. And this was right outside the doors of the visitor center. They had a seed feeder, and right there is a beautiful bird. Also in Florida, you better look out for iguanas in your yard. You can have a yard iguana. This is a green iguana, although he wants to look better with the girls, so he turned orange. Yeah, these are our great egrets we see all the time, but in February, early February, late January, they're displaying all over the place. And we have many pictures of these egrets with all their feathers arrayed. Okay, let's leave Florida now. And we're back. And I'm going to go to some of the top 10 rarer birds for us and some of the endangered birds that we saw. I'm going to finish up with. We searched for 5 years for a good picture of an elegant trogon down in South Arizona. This one we didn't, but we could have taken it from the window of a motorhome. There were some birders on the road, binoculars, cameras. What are you seeing? Oh, and right there, 15 feet. 15 feet in the brush was this incredible bird. They're not rare, but they are not that common in America. Okay, let's start the countdown. Again, not a rare bird, but in the Willamette Valley, thanks to Tim pointing this out last year. I forget what month it was, March maybe. There were pine grosbeaks nesting in Gates, Oregon. So we go up there with a bunch of other birders and we can get some really good shots of the pine grosbeak. Usually they're way up in the mountains on the Santiam Pass, if you're going to find them at all. Not. Okay, long-tailed duck, not in breeding plumage, so minus the long tail. But over at the South Jetty, you occasionally in the winter run into long-tailed ducks. Not very many. The breed itself is endangered. Their numbers have been going down, unfortunately. Now what do we do? Oh, that's it? Well, the rest isn't there. Oh. Oh dear. Well, that's all there is, folks. And I don't have anything else. Let me just recap. Uh, number number 8. There's no picture. Uh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, um, we end up, number 1 was the California condor. You can go down to the Pinnacles National Park, arrive from the east side of the park, and you can, from the parking lots there, if you have a good high-powered scope, you can pick out California condors. Um, their numbers are now maybe in the wild 300s. Our number 2 was the whipping crane. With a picture of a couple dancing around in Texas, but last year in October, we were in Wisconsin, and Beth spotted way out, 250 yards away, white birds. And I said, egrets, they'll keep going. We had spent 2 hours in Nacita Refuge looking for cranes. Wisconsin has a population of 80 cranes. They brought them there. They taught them, you've probably seen the videos, they taught them to migrate using ultralight airplanes to lead them with guys dressed in crane suits. That's some kind of volunteer. And they did this for a couple years. The cranes now, the adults know the way, and so they're teaching the juveniles. Number 3 was the Florida scrub jay. Looks just like Oregon scrub jay. However, there's only about 4,000 of them left. And what I learned in researching these guys were that America, New Zealand had how many, Joan, endemic birds? Yeah, America, not counting Hawaii, but America has 15. 15, and our trips last year, I didn't know we were seeing 5 of the endemic birds. Your yellow-billed magpie, yellow-billed magpie is one. We had number 3, that Florida jay. Number 4, going backwards now, was the red cockaded woodpecker, who we saw on the Gulf Coast of Florida. And then I think moving up the ladder, again, those 2 were America's endemic birds. The snail kite. Now the snail kite, the numbers got really low, 800 or so in the Everglades. And then they started rebounding, conservation efforts, $2 billion to drain some of the wetlands, and the snail kite was coming back. One thing that helped was people dumping out their aquariums, releasing a new invasive species of apple snail. This one was a little larger, and miraculously, the snail kite, I wish I had the picture, I got the snail in there too, he grew larger quickly, got a stronger bill, and was able to thrive on the larger apple snail. And now I'm forgetting. Beth, help me out. I made you watch all these. Well, anyway, that's kind of what. But I was surprised to see the other endemics we saw last year: yellow-billed magpie, boat-tailed grackle, Florida, and the Carolina chickadee. Those 5 of the 15 endemic. Okay, get to Florida. Don't hesitate. Greg showed us great place to be right now and to bird. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Dick. I'm sorry I missed some of your photos. I don't know how that happened. We'll have to figure that out so that doesn't happen again. So to take us home tonight, we have another professional photographer uh, who has turned his skills and equipment into artistry. Um, so Greg Owens is here in town and take some beautiful photos. And I asked him if he would present tonight. If you're going to go anywhere interesting, it's one of the fun things about these photo sharing is we get to see birds from around the world, these endemics from around the world, interesting and rare birds that we don't get to normally see. So if you're going to be doing a trip like that this year, I'd really like to talk to you, and maybe we can have you share your photos with us again next year. Thank you.
All right. Okay, this is the first time I've had a microphone in my hand, ever. So bear with me. My partner Connie came up with the title, Accuracy and Artistry of Bird Photos, and I think Tim kind of alluded to what that might mean. It's like, this is the first time I've ever seen my stuff on a big screen too, so I'm not sure how it's going to look. All right, so these are some of my beginning efforts for editing. This is out at Ankeny, was pretty underexposed shot, and I had to work on it to try to get some detail out of it. And the osprey, and if you're a fisherman, you're going to realize it's the adipose fin is clipped, so it's a hatchery fish. Anyway, I just thought it was a nice picture with the osprey looking at me. This one, cut up the wings. I did have one that had the wings down, but you couldn't see much of the under part of the bird. So this was out at Ankeny, out at Eagle Marsh. And I just pulled up into the parking lot, and a heron flew over the parking lot, and I thought, well, it's gone. And then it landed just on the other side of the fence and picked up a snake. And I got out with my big lens and just started firing away. So these are at a basket slough, northern harriers, a male and female, and they're guarding a nest. They had a sign up that said, beware aggressive hawks. Yeah. So a family went through, and I followed them. And as I got around the corner, I turned to look, and they're both off their perch coming after me. So getting shots like these, that'll bring you back to photography. I thought the eagle was just kind of maybe a humorous pose. Blackbirds pushed it off its perch eventually. That was out at Ankeny, out at Pinto Marsh. And this, I didn't know what to do with it. Has a shadow across the eye from this thorn up here. And I just couldn't handle that. But I decided to keep it because it's got a seed in its mouth, and it shows this wedge on the lower part of the jaw, like maybe how it scissors the seeds. And then it's got its tongue, and it's kind of negotiating the meat or whatever it is inside the seed. So it's kind of a learning thing for me. Okay. I get to really see how your pictures look on the big screen. Okay, so Pintail Marsh, usually when a flock takes off, like it could be over nothing, or it could be because of this. And I'm not going to tell you what happened to the little guy in the water there. And my turkey picture was at my front door. I thought just the little guy just looked kind of nice. So it's not often I like to keep the back end of a bird, but since it was carrying its meal, and I did get the eye sharp, I thought it was a keeper. Just a contrast in the way you're going to edit your photos. Either one of these could have looked like the other. So just a different way of editing. And contrast in birds, that's an eagle marsh. And the pelicans do come to visit on occasion. I have flying pelicans and diving pelicans herding the fish or whatever they do, but I thought this one was kind of nice, being up close and personal. On my way home from Basket Slough, I was all done. My camera was put away, and it didn't fly away. It's a rare time when a kestrel doesn't fly away. So I got a shot of it eating some kind of rodent. Starting getting into the little birds. They're hard to get because they're usually nestled down in behind the limbs and stuff. So when you get one just hanging on a piece of grass or something with nothing blocking it, you're going to take a shot of that. Like the little birds, the creepers, the wrens, the stuff that move up and down on the bark. I've got so many eagle shots, I don't know what to do with them. But this one looks, I think it was getting ready to take a bath. And it was just looked like it was testing the water. I just thought it was a nice clean shot. And this one, somebody had a caption that looked like a happy dance, but actually they're fighting over a little wing. I'm sure this is posturing for breeding rights. I thought this is interesting. Are those long-billed dowitchers? I think. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Anyway, the northern shoveler, and then I think that's maybe the female over there, kind of camouflaged. Yeah. And sometimes you just can't pass up a shot. I'm not sure what it's doing. Maybe looking for a meal on the ground. So I've done 2 Christmas bird counts. I'm relatively new at the birding world. And this was the first one, Lincoln Sparrow at Minnow Park. Kay was very excited to see the Lincoln Sparrow. And then that's a California quail, I think. Very well fed. Yes. And if you're going to choose, if you're going to have a portfolio and you have to choose a pose or something like that, I thought I like the pose of this great blue heron, but it's got a very busy background. So maybe settle for this. It has a more natural background in it. And who can pass up a nice hoodie with a reflection? So this is a what? A flicker. Yeah, in a nest. And this is just the entry into the Oregon garden. It's right there in front of your face. And what's a pileated woodpecker with a tongue sticking out. And this is a snag just as you're driving into the first parking lot at Minnow Brown Park. Quest for yellowbirds. If they're hard to get, boy, when you get a shot of one, you can't pass it up. So I can't tell you how many I had to throw away because they weren't in focus. And this was Middle Brown. Was this on a birding? Oh, or was this just you and I? Okay, all right. This was Talking Waters down in Albany. And I just thought, looks like they have a nest in the granary. It's got a few acorns in it, and there's Junior watching mom or dad fly away and get some more food. This was very underexposed, this first heron right here, but I can't resist. I got to try to tease out some detail and just to see what it looks like, and able to get a lot of interesting feathers. And then I realized it's actually probably looking at me past its bill. I thought, and it's on one leg. I go, that's a keeper. And this was a cold day, caught a fish. I think it was excited, so it flipped up his wings, and that was a nice looking heron. This was on an Audubon walk. I don't know who spotted the Virginia rail, but I lagged behind until I could finally get a shot of it. And that was at Minnow Brown Park. And we went snipe hunting and met Barry Fuller out at, but I got this probably a week before or so out at Ankeny. It just sitting there waiting for somebody to take its picture. And I'll take a picture. And one of the days I couldn't go out with the Audubon group, they informed me that there was canvasback and tundra swans right there. I actually had to back up with my camera lens to get them in the picture. Trumpeters, yeah. And a ringneck, yeah. And this is a guy or gal, I'm not sure, out at Minto. A lot of inquiries about it, and I can't really describe how to get to it because I just follow her around. I'm in tow. She says, well, let's go over here. Let's go over here. And I'm like, okay. But yeah, we finally got to see it there, Great Horned Owl. And we did make it over to Central Oregon and got some nice birds there, but I thought the canyon wren was just a nice pose. Nice western meadowlark against the blue background. Can't pass that up. And I got convinced to enter this in a contest. I figure if you've got highlight in the fish's eye and the bird, that's a keeper. And what's an Anna's hummingbird without a tongue sticking out? And this is an example of pushing the editing about as far as you can. And there's one on a cold day. It was kind of dark, and I was able to tease out some color in the editing process. And I wouldn't even have considered taking this picture, but my partner was a former art teacher, and she said, get a picture of that. So there it is. Anyway, that concludes my show.
Well, thank you, Greg. So I hope this inspires you to all go out and not just take bird pictures, but create art, no matter what kind of equipment you have. So, Greg, the question was, what kind of gear did you have for your photos? Yeah.
Well, I have the flagship camera from Nikon. I have a Z9. It's a full frame camera. And then I started out with a 200 to 500. Well, I started out with a 70 to 210. And I wondered why my photos didn't look like the other photos of the bird photographers. So I did a little homework, and to get in the game, I got a 200 to 500 zoom. And that got me in the game. That let me reach out and get some. And I had a camera like Tim's, D500. Great camera. So now I traded in a 600, which was extremely big, heavy f4 prime lens. Yeah, and I traded it in on an 800, but it's not the $18,000 one. I just make that clear right now. It's the other one, and it's much lighter. It's something I can put a sling on and pack it around and carry it. So hopefully that's all I'm going to get.
Well, I always admire Greg when I see him because I'm always going for lightweight, right? I'm going to, how can I get some weight on this? He's carrying this, thing that you normally need a truck to cart around. He's not shy to big lenses. Any other questions for our presenters? Thank you for coming.